Here is the sentence anxious care hates. Another adult is allowed to make a choice you would never make. You are allowed to dislike it. You are allowed to name the cost. You are allowed to protect yourself. But their life does not become your property because you are afraid of the outcome. Fear can explain the urge to control. It does not turn that urge into moral authority. I am talking about competent adults in ordinary, non-emergency situations. If there is immediate danger, coercion, abuse, illegal duty, or impaired capacity, get appropriate help. This is not emergency triage, diagnosis, or treatment advice. It is a boundary for the everyday moments when concern quietly becomes command. Control rarely introduces itself honestly. It says, "I'm only trying to help." Then it repeats advice that was not requested, demands updates, monitors tone, recruits other people, or punishes disagreement with distance and guilt. The controller points to good intentions. The other person experiences pressure. Both facts can exist at once. Caring about someone does not make every controlling act loving, and calling an act controlling does not prove the person feels no love. Judge the behavior, not an invented diagnosis. Advice leaves room for an answer. Control treats no as a malfunction. Advice can state consequences. Control tries to manufacture obedience. Advice says, "Here is what I see, here is what I can offer, and the choice is yours." Control keeps escalating until the other person's decision resembles yours. That is not clarity. It is anxiety trying to wear a badge. There is a reason pressure can become bad persuasion. In 2 experiments on health messages, James Dillard and Li Jiangshen found that threats to freedom operated through a mix of anger and negative thoughts that shaped attitudes and intentions. Those studies were not about every relationship, and they do not prove every firm request will backfire. They do show why adding force can create resistance instead of understanding. When a conversation becomes a contest over who owns the decision itself may disappear behind the fight. Respecting autonomy is not indifference. In 2 studies of close friendships, Edward Datesy and colleagues found that perceived autonomy support was associated with need satisfaction and relationship quality. Giving autonomy support also predicted qualities of the giver's experience. In 3 later studies of romantic relationships, Benjamin Haddon and colleagues found relationship autonomy was associated with supportive behavior and less intrusiveness. These are associations, not a promise for every friendship or couple. Still, they challenge the lazy idea that care must look like surveillance. Support can be active, specific, and deeply involved without annexing another person's agency. Now, separate acceptance from approval. Acceptance is not saying the choice is wise, fair, safe, or harmless. It is not forgiveness, reconciliation, silence, or staying. It is the refusal to build your next move on a fantasy version of the present. An influential psychological flexibility framework connects contact with present conditions to action guided by values. That framework is not a guarantee, and this video is not therapy. The useful distinction is simpler. Acceptance names what is already true. Choice names what you do next. When you feel the urge to take over, make 2 columns. In the first, write what is yours. What you say, what you offer, what access you allow, what money or time you contribute, what consequence you will enforce, whether you stay, whether you leave, and whether you ask for qualified help. In the second, write what is theirs, what they believe, what lesson they learn, whether they accept your advice, and which choice they make within their own rights. Do not put "make them understand" in your column. That is an outcome, not an action. Replace it with 1 clear sentence, 1 real offer, and 1 boundary you are prepared to keep. Suppose a friend keeps returning to a decision you think is a mistake. Say the concern once without theater. Ask whether they want advice, practical help, or simply company. If their decision harms you, name the impact and change your participation. If it does not, let discomfort remain discomfort. Do not convert it into a license to manage them. And if you cannot offer help without demanding control, step back before resentment turns your generosity into a debt they never agreed to owe. This boundary cuts both ways. You do not own their choice, and they do not own your availability. They may reject your advice. You may withdraw an offer. They may choose a path. You may refuse to finance it, cover for it, or absorb its consequences. A boundary is not a secret punishment designed to force surrender. It is a truthful description of what you will and will not do. If you announce a consequence you cannot or will not keep, you are still bargaining for control. The hard part is not letting go of love. It is letting go of the fantasy that love gives you the steering wheel, care enough to tell the truth, care enough to listen, care enough to act when action is yours. Then stop pretending that another adult's life is a referendum on your wisdom. You can remain present without taking possession. You can reject harm without becoming a warden. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to stop calling ownership care. Stop trying to control what was never yours.